What's up, everybody? Manny Coates here with Helium 10, also with AMPM Podcast. If you're listening to this on the podcast, and I am joined by two fantastic dudes from our office here. Bradley Sutton over here on my right. He is our operations coordinator. You've seen him in a lot of videos. He does most of the training for the company now. You can scoot in here so they can see all of you. And then over here on the left, we've got our head of engineering, Boyan Gajic. And this guy is a wizard when it comes to code. He's the Harry Potter of
Oz.
Okay, there we go. So, and for whatever reason, if you're watching this on video, this side of the camera looks a little blurry. So, Boyan, you're a little, I don't know what's going on.
He's moving so fast that they can't capture his.
Yeah. So, guys, we just did a video and a podcast. It's all combined in one. In regards to keyword research, right? It was about search results when you're doing keyword research, and how that jumps around. And we wanted to take this to the next level, which is to cover the topic of indexing, right? Because one of the things you do when you search is you want to find out where you're ranked, and you want to find out if you're indexed even to see if you're going to be showing up in search results, if you're going to be doing a launch, for example, Bradley, right? You want to make sure you're indexed. And I want to go back a little bit for those of you that don't know what indexing is. And it's changed a little bit. Back probably several years ago when I was trying to figure things out with Amazon, I was first starting out. Myself and my buddy Kevin King, we were just spending all day figuring out how to do at the time it wasn't called anything, but we're like, we want to see if Amazon is indexing us, right? And indexing meant that if you go to Amazon, for example, and you paste it in your ASIN for your product, and then you paste it in a keyword. Let's say I had a flashlight, and I put in my ASIN, and then I typed in tactical flashlight right behind that, made a search. Only one result should show up because it has my ASIN in that search, right? So it's a one result found, and it would be my product. Now, if it didn't come up, if it said 0 results found, then that means that this is what we thought. Amazon did not have us indexed, meaning we're not in their database for that keyword phrase, right? I hope that makes sense, guys. So that's how we started doing it. Now, imagine that you filled in your listing with your title, your bullet points, description, your backend keywords, everything else with hundreds, if not thousands of keyword phrases. Doing those phrases one at a time, pasting an ASIN, the keyword, and then doing a search and seeing if you showed up hundreds of times or 1,000 times would take forever. And it did. It would take like 8 hours to do one listing. So we figured out a way to automate that. And we taught everybody how to do this manually, or they could use our tool, which at the time we called 5K Checker. It was called 5K Checker because back in the day, guys, the backend search terms allowed 5,000 characters. So that's why we called it 5K Checker. Today, it should be, what should it be called? 250 Checker? Something like that. But we haven't changed the name. So that's how we used to do it. Then back in, back in April, something happened, right, Boyan? What did you see?
Right. So maybe early April, we noticed that some of the products are not being indexed for specific keywords using traditional definition and traditional method of establishing index or validating index. So you would see a product run a test using the method that was industry standard at the time, and the method returns that the product is not indexed yet. The product is right there on page 1. It could even be product number 1. So the result number 1, you run a method that's been working for a couple of years, and that the results say, hey, it's not indexed. So that it first started in April. It was a very common thing. So we spent some time trying to understand why that's happening. But then since it wasn't affecting performance, I guess, for most of the keywords, most of the products, we didn't spend that much time on it. But then, like mid-April, mid-August, things kind of exploded. So since like second half of August, the things changed rapidly, and early September, it just escalated beyond any limit. So right now, the traditional method is returning maybe 60 to 70% accuracy. There are other methods that you can use to expose if Amazon believes that your product is kind of connected to the keyword, or that your listing is connected to the keyword. So beyond just the traditional method, there are some other ways to exposing those connections, and you're actually preparing for release of a new version of our 5K checker, still called 5K checker, that will expose several methods of checking for indexing status. And you're actually going to discuss the method, the technique that we use to establish that status. And as a Helium 10 user, you'll be able to run those tests concurrently, and you'll see that based on check number 1 and check number 2, your keyword is being indexed, or but based on test check number 3, the storefront, your product is not indexed for specific keyword.
So you're going to be adding in 5K checker multiple columns, right? That show you whether you're indexed in different ways. And Bradley, why don't you talk about the different types of indexing that you've seen? Because there used to be one index, right, that we knew of, and now there seems to be multiple indexes. There could be a dozen indexes. We don't know how many there are, but there's at least several that we do know that we can actually use, which we are going to use in 5K checker, and which we're going to actually describe to you guys here. We don't want to keep any secrets from you, so we're going to tell you how it's done, and we're just going, and you can do it manually, or you can use the tool next week or whenever it comes out, sometime this month, to automate the whole process. So what have you seen?
Well, there's the traditional index that you were talking about, how if you do ASIN plus keyword, or if you're coming up in just a regular search, there's also the storefront, what I call the storefront index, how maybe that one doesn't come up, but if you do a storefront search for a certain keyword, that item will come up. Then you're indexed in the storefront. There's also, what you found out months ago is that there's like a PPC index, where you can have a word that's not even in your listing at all, but you're going to come up in the organic results. And that blew me away when I was working for one company, and it was a very popular brand name. And you type in that brand name, and on page 1, all the organic results was that brand's products. But then you go to page 2, and half of the results are different brands. And so at first I was like, what's going on here? So I opened up a case with Amazon, because the first thing I did was I checked on the front end of those listings. I was like, well, did they like stuff, the brand in their bullet points or description? And it wasn't there. And at that time, I didn't have Vendor Central or Vendor Express, so I couldn't go in and do that one hack where you can go in and see what people have in the back end. So I just opened up a case and I said, hey guys, how come somebody, I just assumed that they did have it in their back end, search term. And I was like, otherwise, why would it come up organically? And I was like, hey guys, why, when somebody searches for our brand, does this product come up? And why they must have it in their back end? They're like, no, they don't have it in their listing, but it's because we have noted buyer behavior has, when people search for this, they are also prone to get this product. And that's why we put it there. I was like, wow. And I actually recognized one of the brands as somebody from one of my mastermind groups. And so I called them up. And I was like, hey, do you have this brand name in your listing in the back end? They're like, no. And I was like, well, how did you get there? He's like, well, I've sent a lot of PPC traffic to that brand name, and Amazon puts it on there, and I've converted, and, lo and behold, here I am, in the organic results. So there's what some are calling the PPC index, as well. It's the word is not in your listing, but you can come up in the organic. But Boyan, when I first came here, he brought up something when, so many people are so obsessed with indexing, and indexing is important, but it goes back to the point of, well, why do you want to be indexed? Why does it matter? And it's kind of like, one analogy is, if a tree falls down in the forest and nobody's around, does it make noise? So let's say you're quote unquote indexed, but you're not anywhere within, the top 300. Does it even matter if you're indexed? So it's kind of this philosophical discussion. So Boyan can talk a little bit more about it, but to me, I cared about indexing for a couple of reasons, probably similar to you, is I want to make sure if I was going to use a 2-step URL, I have to make sure that I'm going to come up in a 2-step URL. If it doesn't, then I'm just sending out coupons for no reason. Or maybe I want to know, hey, is it a possibility that I'm going to rank, for this keyword? But maybe, quote unquote, it is possible. But if I'm not ranking for it, does it even matter?
And it's pretty critical nowadays, because you have to consider all the options. Do I want to rank just here or over here? And I had the same scenario as you did. I don't even know if you guys know the story, but my brother runs the FBA business. We got a cease and desist from another company for their brand, saying, stop using our brand name on your back-end search terms. They just called us out, right? because it wasn't on the front end. You couldn't see it on the front page. And I'm like, Mike, check into this. Look and make sure that we remove their brands. We shouldn't have this in there. And he's like, it's not in there anywhere. And so we check our PPC reports, and sure enough, we're getting impressions, and we were getting sales off of that brand because we had, for whatever, either a better price or better listing, people were buying. So we were actually outselling them on specific keywords, one of them with their brand name in there. So it was never in our listing, but that index, that PPC index, made us show up. So with all of these different kinds of indexes, what do you think is how should people do indexes right now? Do you advise them going in and manually? I guess there's no reason to do it manually anymore. It's just going to take too much time, right? And before you answer that, this is how bad it is. You can take an ASIN plus a keyword and be indexed, and then you flip it around, put the keyword and the ASIN, same exact search, right? And it doesn't index. It flip-flops. It might index, it might not index.
Right. So the traditional method is not reliable anymore. But like any of those methods, if you're just trying to establish that Amazon is aware of your product in context of that keyword, any of those methods will work. So if you come up on index number 1 or index number 2 or index number 3, whatever you name those indexes. So if your product comes up, that means Amazon is aware of your product as it relates to that keyword. Now, what happens when people search for specific keyword? Will your product come up or not? That's the part that you can try to influence by creating better listing. But the thing that seems to be popular and seems to be working, and Bradley experienced that himself, is that PPC performance affects your organic performance. So those things are not, those like organic and PPC sides of business are getting related to each other. Like they're getting fused, and by doing well on PPC, by running your PPC campaigns in kind of broad way where you open and you're exposing your product to Amazon search engine and Amazon buyers base. You're kind of exposing the product to the organic side of Amazon as well. So that would be my recommendation. It's not very technical, but that's what I'm noticing. That by running efficient PPC campaigns, you can go beyond just traditional list of keywords. And 5K checker, like shrinking to 250, like that seems like something that's detrimental. You cannot push in as many keywords as you used to be able, but now with PPC you essentially have the entire dictionary available. So just let Amazon discover, let Amazon delegate to Amazon that discovery part. Let Amazon discover who's interested in your product based on specific keyword and who's not. So set a low cost, low budget, and let it run, let it simmer.
Just try to get a bunch of keywords into your listing that are tied to your product. Make sure that they're relevant. Back in the day, a lot of things that we used to all do is you wanted to get as many keywords in there, even if it wasn't that relevant. Like, for example, if you had a flashlight and you're selling a flashlight, you're like, I want to rank for a camping tent because you need a flashlight when you go camping. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really work that well anymore. Amazon is not liking that. They're starting to penalize in some ways. And relevancy is a big thing. So, okay, so that's coming out sometime this month. The triple, you call it a triple check? Is that what it is? Maybe more later?
Yeah, we can change, call it triple check.
Triple check. If you guys have a name for a 5K checker, what we should rename it, let us know. Everybody calls it that. So I hate changing the name, but we should probably call it like just indexer, or I don't know. You got any good names?
I don't know, I'll have to think about it. But a lot of the functionalities that's coming out, it's already doing it. I don't know how many are out there do it right now, but I've tested that PPC index, like that exact product, which I knew about that I referred to earlier. I ran it through 5K checker even now, and it does show that it's indexed. So like even now, if you're curious about, if you got indexed for a certain word that you don't even have in your listing and it's on this PPC index, 5K checker even now is going to show that you're indexed for it. And kind of going back to our previous video that we did, another indexing issue that we're seeing with the whole Amazon search shuffle is, actually last week on 9/11, I had done a search for collagen peptides powder in a Chrome browser. and it was what was it? I have it written down here, 546. 546 results came up. It says here's page 1 of 16, 1 to 16 of 546. I did at the same exact time from the same computer a search in Edge, and 683 results came up. So does that mean in one browser there's 150 more products that are indexed, or what would happen if you did a indexing search? 154 products just disappeared, from the index. At the same time the next week, I did the same 2 searches in the 2 browsers. One had 703 and one had 701. So these kind of things, is enough to drive anybody crazy if you're trying to check if your index, using these other tools, but what the actual user might be seeing could even be something else. If you're one of those 150 that disappeared and then appeared again the next week, I don't know what's going on. It's crazy what Amazon's doing.
So either one of you guys can answer this. What would you do? So you get the new 5K checker, and it's checking 3 of the indexes. And what happens if you're indexed in one but not in the other 2, or any combination there? What would you guys do in that scenario? Would you want to make sure you try to get ranked for all 3, or what's the deal?
What are you trying to do in the first place? Are you trying to identify keywords that you want to run some kind of accelerated focus promotion, like a boost promotion or something? Or are you just trying to find keywords that you want to run your PPC campaigns on? Or are you just curious? I want to know what my product is related to based on Amazon's algorithm. So depending on what you're trying to do, obviously, if you're trying to do that focus promotion using some special URL, you want to make sure that your product is visible when you go to that page. So like index check A or index check B makes no difference as long as your manual test returns your product when you run that search. So that index status, it does not really matter for that focused promotion. Now, if you're trying to optimize your listing, I guess having more hits than misses is important. So there's not like one recipe for everybody.
Gotcha. Okay, and we know that we believe, I guess, that there's additional indexes with Alexa,
badges.
Mm-hmm. Different people are testing things, and they're coming up with data that says, we've tested it with this, and we're showing that we're indexing here. But if you change the criteria a little, you're over here. It's almost like parallel universes or multiverses, right? You tweak one little thing, and suddenly that becomes its own little index, right? Is that kind of where we're at right now?
Yeah,
with a storefront index and
it feels like it's becoming a distributed system. So as opposed to having one central location where everybody can go and everybody has to go and say, seller in Amazon, like you go to all the way down and you say, okay, is this product relevant for this keyword? Now there are those multiple distributed centers where you can go and quickly check. And I guess that by doing that, Amazon reduces latency, but that there may be some side effects. Going from 703 to 701 products, which is not that bad, or going from 650 to 510, that's more alarming. So you just have to make sure, or you can try to make sure that you're in 650, or like that you're one of those that are there all the time. So having more than one hit on that index is probably a good thing. Also running a couple of checks. If you're getting ready to make a big investment in that promotion, I would run that check couple of times before spending money.
The same
before
check?
Launching.
Same check?
And
how often?
Check. Like do it now and do it. Restart your browser. Make sure you erase your cookies. Restart the browser and try another check an hour later. It's like make sure that there's some.
Make sure Amazon's not juggling it around, doing the ASS.
Yeah, like
the Amazon Search Shuffle.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we talked about that in the other thing. That's what we call it, guys. It's everything that's going on and it's affecting indexing and everything is the Amazon Search Shuffle, ASS. I just call it ass. My listing is messed up. It's ass. So there you go, guys. All right. What else are there any other topics that we didn't hit about indexing? Anything important that we missed that we should talk about?
Just, I think that the biggest advice I have, sometimes, there's, I wouldn't call it hysteria, but big waves of people, who think that indexing is so important, which it is. But the mistake I see being made is people just care if they're indexed or not. Well, if you're indexed or not, and you're not going to do anything about it, it doesn't really matter. Like if you're wanting to do a giveaway and you want to pick 5 words that you're going to send to a storefront URL, well, yeah, excuse me, yeah, you have to know if you're indexed in the storefront. But if you're checking 3,000 words, if you're indexed, you find out that you are, but excuse me, man, goodness, but you don't know, you're not going to do anything about it. Well, what does it matter if you're indexed or not? It only matters if you're actually going to take action. Say, I'm going to send a bunch of PPC traffic. I'm like,
you dying
I'm dying here live. I've done 2 AMAs today and 2 demos and 3 podcasts.
Wait, some water for this guy.
What was I talking about? Oh yeah. Okay. So like, if you're not going to, you got to use that information. If you have no, if you're not going to go ahead and send PPC traffic, why do you even care? You know, if you're indexed, if you're not ranked for it, because if you're not ranked for something and you are indexed, it really means nothing if you're indexed. I think you're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, the mindset is, I want to be indexed so that people can find me in organic search results, right? So if I'm not indexed for this, and this is the old teachings that we all did, right? If you're not indexed, you're not even going to show up in the search results no matter what someone types in. So now people are like, man, if I take a keyword from my title and I take a keyword from my bullet points and I put them together to create a phrase match, right? I want to make sure that I show up in the search results somewhere for that. And if Amazon's saying I'm not indexed, I have 0% chance of actually showing up. That was kind of the old way, right?
Right, but there's that correlation is lost. So the old way was use your ASIN and use one word. So you wanted to make sure that you're indexed for individual words. And now that the thing you mentioned, that you're seeing that you have to make sure that you're indexed for that phrase. And then even if that one check is showing that Amazon is aware of your product with that phrase, just moving ASIN around, like going from ASIN plus keyword or ASIN plus phrase to phrase plus ASIN might affect results. So affirming that ASIN plus single word will return your listing doesn't really do anything for you unless you're targeting that specific word. Then yeah, there might be some value in that. So I would go for phrases. If you do want to focus on phrases, if you feel that the specific phrase is really important for your listing, and you have your title and you have it here, you have it there, you want to make sure that Amazon is aware of that. Then sure, run a check, but make sure you're checking for the phrase. Like don't go for individual chunks and then to try to derive some meaning out of that.
And we've seen this too, right? We've seen where you can actually index for keyword number 1 in the phrase. You also index for keyword number 2 if you run it separately with that ASIN. But then when you run the full phrase of both keywords that index as a phrase with the ASIN, it doesn't index. Amazon decide, no, we don't want to show you for that phrase.
Yeah,
that's weird, right? Why? Any ideas on why something like that? Like, let's say you show up for tactical and you show up for flashlight, but not for tactical flashlight. Is that just one of the index switching that they've done?
To me, I've seen the opposite, where it's like you index for tactical flashlight, but maybe not for tactical or flashlight. And then a lot of it is like words that aren't necessarily common words like a, and, or the, but like a word like best. Like, before you put best in your listing, you'll index for that now. But like words like best now that are kind of general, Amazon doesn't like to index you. But so I've had it where I'll put best somewhere, but then, like let's say it's an iPhone 8 case, but then I don't index for best iPhone 8 case. But then if you start playing around with the listing and put some context around it, like, I put best iPhone 8 case, maybe like 2 or 3 different places in the listing, eventually I've been able to get that to index. So that's something new that I would say in the past 6 months, I've seen also that before nobody had to worry about it. It's just like, okay, let me put this word in my listing and I'm going to index for it. But now it's like Amazon wants you to almost justify with context why you want that specific keyword in your listing, or else we're not going to give you indexing for it.
Awesome. So I want to end with a little tip. A lot of people are doing this now. In your back end, right, when you go into Seller Central and you're looking at where you enter your keywords, there's also the subject matter fields. Okay, I know that we don't have this right now in Scribbles, but I think we're going to be adding subject matters. But what we've noticed is if you put keywords, I believe it's 50 characters per field, right? And there's 5 of them.
There's only you can only have one in the subject matter. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So it's 50 total.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They
Yeah.
Okay. So, but those tend to index really well. So now it's just one extra field to stick it in. Title, obviously, really good. Bullets, if they're not crazy long, usually will index pretty well in most cases, and descriptions sometimes. It just depends.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out the new 5K checker or whatever we're going to call it when it comes out. You said we were talking about this yesterday. This month, sometime by the end of September.
Yeah, I said this month.
Yeah, I'm always nervous about this because you talk to the engineering team and they say 1 week, and it takes 17 weeks. So, but you seem confident about this one.
1 March and a week.
Exactly. So, guys, that's it for us. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to try to jump into these videos occasionally when there's something that's pressing. We normally will just do an audio podcast. We wanted to be on here and share this video, throw it up on the blog, because so many people were posting about this in the Facebook groups. And I'm in there constantly. So if you have questions, post them up. I know Bradley's in there. We have our support team as well. So if you're having any issues with any of the Helium 10 tools, you want some additional clarification, you can email support@helium10.com. And yeah, so that's about it. Any final words?
The things don't die when you send them to support. So if you do contact support, if you do it twice, they'll wake me up in the middle of the night. So I have to respond. I have to make sure that doesn't happen. So if you do contact support, somebody's there.
You just opened up a can of worms that way.
So again, thank you, Boyan and Bradley, for joining me. Until next time, guys, my name is Manny Coates, and we will talk to you next time. Keep on crushing it.